last week, a church in Kentucky called LexCity Church, Lexington City Church. LexCity Church shut down. They said we're not going to have services anymore, and they posted this on Facebook. I just checked today, by the way. They shut down their entire page already, so I'm glad I got a screenshot. But look at the top of this. Church family, today we're writing a letter that no leadership team desires to write. Through thoughtful prayer and heartfelt tears, the leadership team of Lexington City Church has voted to permanently cease our ministry. Due to the continued effects of the financial situation our church inherited several years ago, and the impact of the ongoing investigation of a former staff member, we have lost the ability to remain financially viable and fulfill our God-given mission. So sad. But wait, sorry, go back for a second. The impact of an ongoing investigation of a former staff member? Tell me more about that. Because notice they don't really go into details. They just say, something happened with the former staffer. It's hurting us. We got to shut down. And the thing is, if you search for this former staff member and what this staff member supposedly did, oh no, it's really, really bad. Let me show you the website from the Kentucky Attorney General's office. This is what the Kentucky Attorney General said. Attorney General Coleman announces arrest of a former Lexington pastor for rape and sexual abuse of a minor. And they cite the arrest of Zachary King, 47, former executive pastor of LexCity Church, for rape and sexual abuse of a minor, as well as the unlawful use of electronics to engage in sexual acts with a minor. Basically, they're saying this guy sexually assaulted a child, and they were exchanging pictures with each other. I had to find an actual news article to find out how disturbing this was. And these are just the charges, not the specifics. But this is from a local news outlet. Zachary King, 47, is facing charges of first-degree rape, third-degree rape, first-degree sodomy, third-degree sodomy, first-degree sexual abuse, and procuring or promoting the use of a minor by electronic means, according to court records. Like, holy crap, this is extremely, extremely serious. Another news article about this situation is put it in layman's terms, but basically King consented to an interview with the detective. This is after he was arrested, and admitted to having sex. It's assault, not sex. I don't know why they call it that. Admitted to having sex with a 15-year-old minor beginning in January of 2023 and lasting until April of 2024. That's like 15 months. The sexual encounters, still, why are they calling it that? It's assault. Happened at his home, the minor's home, and at the former pastor's church. Oh my God. So, here's what I will say about LexCity Church. There is no evidence that anyone at the church knew any of this was happening. It appears that when they learned this was happening, they took immediate action by basically forcing this guy to resign. And then the police arrested the guy. I'm not sure if there's a link in between those two or what. Like, I don't know if the church knew that he was going to get arrested, but whatever. They got rid of him at the church, and then he got arrested, and then we found out about what happened. There's no indication anyone at the church knew any of this was going on. So I want to be clear. I don't know that the church did anything wrong, but clearly they were not keeping close enough tabs on this guy. So that's disturbing. And also, this must have happened really quickly because the church's YouTube channel showed this guy preaching as recently as March. So the encounters that he did, apparently happened through April. Well, he was still preaching like a month prior to that. So his downfall happened very quickly. And that takes me back to what they said about why they were shutting down. I want to show you that again because of how disturbing it is now in hindsight, now that you know what I know. Because look at this. Due to the continued effects of the financial situation our church inherited several years ago, don't care, and the impact of the ongoing investigation of a former staff member. Like, how Sorry. How could you downplay what he did that much in this description? And they say former staff member. Like he was a janitor we hired 10 years ago. No, he was the executive pastor of your church like 3 months ago. And you're not saying his name for reasons. That's such a bad statement in hindsight, right? Like, that's how disturbing this is. And also, they said we're closing because we've lost the ability to remain financially viable. That suggests they would totally stay open if people kept giving them cash. But apparently, after the executive pastor got arrested for what he did to a child, even the donors at the church are like, maybe we shouldn't give you money anymore. And they walked out. And now the church is like, you guys, feel bad for us because we have no money anymore. I did want to share with you another thing about this story, which is I don't like the fact that they're closing up shop entirely because I feel like this means there won't be a long term reckoning about this. The other church leaders will never be forced to confront what they did or didn't do that allowed at least one kid to be placed in harm's way. I don't know if the kid was involved with the church, if it was like a Sunday school member or something like that, or if this is some other kid that he brought to the church on occasion. But I would like to know that because that might imply other people had some involvement in this. The church leaders won't have to answer to their own congregation anymore. There's also nothing stopping the leaders at the church from setting up a new church with a new name a couple blocks over after all this, smooths over in time. I will say this church only came into being because the last church in their building, their pastor was caught having an affair with another pastor at the church. That's why the old church had to shut down. And then this church came in, and now this church is shutting down for even worse reasons. So, without a come to Jesus moment, what lessons are they really going to learn? Right now, the only lesson I'm seeing is I wish we had more money, but we don't. So, we'll close up. Like, no one's getting blamed for anything. One thing I found kind of funny in all this is I know the church is scrubbing its websites of any communication with this guy. They took down his sermons. I think their Facebook page is down. I think their YouTube channel has been taken down, even though we preached like a couple of months ago. But there was one website I found hilarious because it was a website. I will show it to you. This is like the website for a church headhunter organization. Like maybe there's a big church that says we need a pastor, and you don't just put that up on Craigslist or something and say we need a pastor. No, you go to a firm, you give them money, and you say, here's our church. We need you to find our next pastor. And it turns out this is a firm. It's called the Vander Bloemen Search Group. And if you went on their website a while back and you clicked on results, you want to see testimonials of how good they are. There was a testimonial from the Metropolitan Baptist Church. And you could see right above my head here from the senior pastor, William and his team are unbelievably well connected with people in the church and people who know people. This is the only approach to place a key staff member. Like they're saying, we went out to them. We were looking for a new pastor. They hooked us up. That guy was great. And who is that guy? Well, let's zoom in right here. It's Zach King, student pastor. And what does this Zach King say? Throughout the process, they did an excellent job assessing my strengths and the fit with this church. I've been here for 3 years and couldn't be happier with the team I'm on. I don't know, but I'm just telling you that this headhunter firm says we should take down this page. I don't think we want a stamp of approval from the guy who just got arrested for doing horrible, horrible things. And by the way, now that this is public, that this guy got arrested for doing stuff with kids, I hope this church kind of asks around if this Zach King ever did anything with the kids at their church. Because that's a very disturbing thing. By the way, thank you, Internet Archive, for saving that page. Last thing I'll mention, there was a wonderful column in the Lexington Herald Leader by a columnist named Linda Blackford who wrote about this because she pointed out that, it's a reminder. This whole story is a reminder that conservative Christians always blame everybody else for being a threat to children. But who's the biggest threat? It's a guy like Zach King. And let me show you what she wrote in her article, because she pointed out all the charges about Zach King. And I see this in the comments already. Zach King is facing all these charges. Not a drag queen. No, that was clergy. Yet again, someone, usually a man in a position of power in a church, has once again been accused of abusing their power, their Christianity, and their congregants. Like, yeah, not a drag queen. Drag queens are not what you got to worry about. Gay people, trans people are not the people you got to worry about. Maybe the call is coming from inside the house. So I appreciate Linda Blackford writing that. Um, I I wanted to point out a lot of news reports I read, and even the church itself in that Facebook post, they keep saying King is a former staff member or a former pastor. And that may be technically true because he's no longer working at the church, but it's misleading in a way because he was definitely a pastor when he was allegedly committing these crimes. And by using the word former, it allows the church to distance themselves from this guy. Even though he was there like a couple months ago, you were all hanging out with him. This is not a guy who happened to work at your church 10 years ago and then you fired him and now you just discovered something horrible. No, he was in the office next door to you in your building and he's leading worship sessions every week. Like, no, he's not a former staff member. He's the guy who ran your church like yesterday. You should admit that and then figure out what you need to do to move forward. All right, I'm going to end it there. That was a disturbing story, but I wanted to make sure you heard that one. Any last questions? Hopefully, we're having an impact. If we can teach children to call out bad actors the first time, we may be able to prevent the abuse. I hope so. I hope all these Me Too stories and Church Too stories help people who are still religious realize that it's important for them to come out and speak out against this stuff. And maybe I hope that the kids in those churches realize that their pastors should not be doing certain things to them. Like, pastors do not deserve unearned trust. I hope this has taught these people a lesson.